time for the Ron and Brian podcast. Get ready to fill your ears with the latest news, politics, current events, and whatever else we feel like talking about this week. And now, your hosts, Ron and Brian.
Oh, that intro, Brian, it is just a banger each and every Sunday. And it's Sunday night. It's 8 o'clock. It is time for episode 267 of the Ron and Brian podcast. Brian, as always, it is fantastic to see you. How are you doing, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing well, Ron. I am doing well. As loyal fans of the show know, this past weekend, I had a big milestone in my life. It was my birthday. Ron, thank you for the wonderful gift.
Sure, anytime.
I turned 51 this year, which means that I'm more than halfway through my expected life cycle. And it really put me into a mode of life where, for the past week, I have really, instead of looking forward, this past week, I looked back. And I realized just how fortunate I am to have a good friend like you, Ron, in my life.
Well, I appreciate your comments. It's always, it's reflection, Brian. It's reflecting on those things that are special to us, like friendship, like podcasts. I mean, it would be, I think it would be heartbreaking if anything were to happen to the podcast.
What are you trying to say, Ron?
I'm not saying it will. I'm just making a statement.
Nothing can happen to the pod. It's
rock solid. It is as solid as your titanium tank.
Ooh.
Well, let's get rolling. Are you thirsty, Brian?
Oh, so thirsty.
All right, well, let's get going with Drink of
the Week.
Na zdrowie.
Salud. Drink of the Week. Friendship.
Drink of the week. Drink of the week. Drink of the week.
Brian, what are you drinking this week?
Ron, put a shrimp on the Barbie. That's not a knife. This is a knife. And a dango ate my baby. We're going down under this week, where I have got my hands all the way from South Bank, Australia, home of the Foster's Group Limited. This is Foster's Premium Ale. It's a pale ale that with an English style to it. It's a 5.5 alcohol by volume,
nice.
with, as you can see, a copper color, a smooth caramel finish. It has a nicely balanced maltiness and a rich caramel notes that will end with a slightly sweet character. Described as an extra strong bitter style beer with a rating of only 68 from Beer Advocate, containing 11 grams of total carbs, 0 grams of fat, and 146 calories per 12-ounce serving. Ron, this is Foster's Premium Ale.
I'm only familiar with the blue can Foster's. I don't think I've ever had the green can Foster's. How is it?
That's why I bought it. I saw it at the store today, and I was like, you know what? I'm drinking this.
And going back for a second sip.
I would have preferred the blue can. I would have preferred the lager.
All right,
I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of the maltiness.
Okay.
Which is not, and it's a little bitter. Not going to lie. I give this one 2 thumbs down.
Oh, sorry, man.
Ron, that's okay. Ron, what did you bring to the table this week?
So I went back to our friends. We've had them here on the show before, of Weldworks Brewing Company out of Greeley, Colorado. This is a little something they made specially for the summer. This is their Orange Creamsicle Sour Ale. This is meant to be kept cold, drink now. No cellaring of this, Brian. It needs to be drank right away. And they brew this with vanilla, orange juice, and milk sugar. Not lactose, Brian. Milk sugar. This is clocking in at a respectable 4.8%. It's got a very citrusy hue to it.
Very light color.
Smell the orange. Right off the bat, you smell the orange. And even a little bit of the vanilla. Let's go down to Pound Town.
I bet. If I had to guess, I'm going to say you're going to love this beer. Oh, he loves it.
This,
he loves it.
It's one of, and again, this came from our friends at Tavor, and normally I get like a couple of cans, which I did for this one.
Hmm.
I wish I had gotten more of this. That is how refreshing this is. You get the orange, you get the sweetness.
Ron, if you can remind me, what is the name of this beer?
This is Orange Creamsicle Sour Ale from WeldWorks Brewing. If you see it, pick it up. It is a great summer beer. Extremely crushable, Brian. We always like to talk about our crushable beers at 4.8%. That's one that you can sit outside and definitely enjoy over and over.
Well, I think also it's just the fact that, it is the time of year where somebody would want to have a crushable, sweet, lovely beer. It's the summer, Ron.
What kind of summer is it?
A hot podcaster summer.
Hot podcaster summer.
Shout out to Dom. Look at this, checking in from the airport. The man is a world traveler, yet he's still checking in, watching his favorite podcast. Good, Dom. We wish you luck on your world travels.
Safe travels.
He's going to Puerto Rico,
Oh, nice.
where apparently it's not warm enough in New York. Dom sat there and said, "Hey, where can I go that's even warmer?"
Where is closer to the equator that I
Sure,
can go
sure.
to and be hotter?
Ron, have you been following the tales of the triple-digit weather in most of this country in the
I
South?
have been. I do, as I sit and enjoy my morning coffee during the week, I do like to watch a little Al Roker.
Mhm.
One, because he's entertaining. Two, because
Sure.
he's on my death pool. So I like to see how he looks, is he breathing heavy, anything like that. But
Reasonable.
everyone has been talking about the West Coast just getting slammed. I think Texas has areas that are going on 31 plus days of triple digit heat. I mean, it's ridiculous out there.
It's wild, right?
Wild, wacky stuff it is.
Sure wild, sure wacky. Do you think this is the climate change that everybody's been talking about? Do you believe that this is a La Nina year? Therefore, we are getting some of the warmer air floating across the country. What is your advice for somebody, say, in Phoenix, Arizona, who's looking at 120 degrees today?
Well, it's a dry heat, Brian. So I would say maybe just stay in the shade, hydrate, find yourself some air conditioning. I think what's more concerning is the fact that the ocean temperature, they've clocked the ocean temperature upwards of around 91 degrees in the Gulf of Mexico. So this is gearing up to be quite the hurricane season as well.
Ron, would you be offended if I said a prayer right now?
No, I think prayer, I wish I could hold your hand and do a prayer circle with you, but please go right ahead.
Dear Lord, I know that you and I have not always seen eye to eye, but this year I'm hearing reports that the Gulf of Mexico is dangerously warm, and we know that that's going to lead to an increased amount of hurricane activity during the 2023 hurricane season. Tends to run from June 1st until end of September. So I'm starting to think that if there's any way, God, that you can hear my prayers, can you please flatten the state of Florida with massive hurricanes all through the next couple months? I'm thinking we take out the Keys first, then we work a little possible. Maybe we can take out Tampa, Port St. Lucie. Nobody really needs the Mets minor league system, spring training complex. Take that shit out also. Maybe we slam through Orlando, save West Palm Beach for, later. Just basically flatten the whole fucking state. Port Richey, I'd like to request that that's also obliterated by a hurricane. God, you are almighty, all powerful. Please join me in all my wishes and all my strong lovings to you. Oh God, you are so powerful, almighty. Please flatten the entire state of Florida with massive hurricanes this year. Love, Brian.
Very touching. Only one way you can
Thank you,
follow
Ron.
up a prayer like that.
Thank you.
Beef of the week.
Ron and Brian's Beef of the Week.
Brian, what's bothering you this week?
What's bothering me this week are specifically the couple that were sitting behind me at the showing of the new Mission Impossible movie that I saw at the Lincoln Center movie theater earlier this afternoon.
And why is that, Brian? What is it about them that bothered you?
Oh, because she dropped her phone halfway through the movie, and then the two of them could not find the phone because there really was not a lot of leg room in that row. So he basically got mad at her, and you could hear him bitching throughout the movie as the movie was going. Anytime there was a lull, you'd hear, "How the fuck do you lose a phone?" Literally, like, and it just kept going on and on. And I found it distracting. And at multiple times during the movies, my seat was squeaking. I sat there wondering to myself, now I understand why I don't go to the movies very often.
Did you do the? Because I know, Lord knows, you weren't going to confront this individual, but did you at times do the little look back over the shoulder just to be like?
I wanted to, but my lady did. Oh, she turned.
Oh,
she
sure.
turned. She definitely did. Yeah,
I'm sure
100%.
I'm sure she locked eyes on the guy. Like no
yes.
fear in her game.
Oh no. Well, that's because she knows she's got me to basically get into any kind of physical altercation if one were to arise.
Muscle back in her head.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, but that is my beef of the week, which is actually, when you think about it, I had a pretty good week.
Altogether, not too bad.
To be able to say that was the biggest thing to complain. Also, a subset of that complaint, just so fucking loud. Obviously, Mission Impossible is an action movie, so there's car chases, there's fight scenes. It was just unnecessarily loud. Like, they could have taken it down 10. Like, the fact that my Apple Watch gave me a warning about how loud it was in the theater, that speaks volumes. Get it?
Maybe it was a little too. That was a good pun.
Thank you. You know, Ron, my whole point in this life is just to entertain you.
I understand. You do a very good job.
Ron.
Yes.
What's bothering you?
So this week, Brian, my beef is with the previous owner of our house. And this is a beef that pops up every now and then. He apparently fancied himself a handyman. He apparently owned some apartments, would do all the work at his apartments himself. And every bit of work that he has done here, whenever we've had to have work done and professionals come in and they look at it, they're always like, why did the last guy do it like this? Like, literally every single time. What's going on with that? So this past weekend, a friend of the podcast, Matt, came over to give some assistance with installing new HVAC splits in the third floor, because when my baby boy Brian comes to stay, he needs to be either chilly or hot depending on the weather temperature. So we needed that up there, and again, now it has become a much more intricate project because of the way everything was kind of run. Like, literally, we had at one point we were going through all of the switches on the electrical panel because they weren't labeled as to what was connected to the old AC units, and found out that the one of the AC units on the third floor is actually connected to the electrical right here in this office that I use.
Yeah, the wire, especially of an older home. I know that you've got, what is that? That was originally built in 1743, I believe you mentioned once.
Roughly. It's 101 years old now.
The electrical wiring can get very how do I say, inventive in terms of, it's one of those Band-Aid over Band-Aid over Band-Aid. And, you're looking at, you're starting from scratch, basically, in so many different
that's what
ways.
We're doing. So we'll be running some, but don't worry, by the next time you come down here, it'll be nice and cool up there for you. You'll sleep like a baby.
All I need is an invitation, Ron. Haven't had one of those in a while.
Well, it's been a busy summer. And why, Brian, has it been a busy summer?
Hot Podcaster Summer.
Exactly. Attending all of the Hot Podcaster Summer events gets very, very crazy.
Nothing wrong with that.
Brian, why
Yeah.
don't we get into stories of the week? We always like to grab some stories and make sure they don't fall through the cracks. Brian, what is the story that you are bringing to the table tonight?
My story takes me all the way to Rome, Italy,
Ooh, Italia.
where the fifth criminal section of the Court of Rome recently acquitted a 66-year-old janitor who was accused of putting his hand down a female student's pants and touching her buttocks in April of 2022. Italian citizens are furious over the judge's ruling in the sexual assault case, as the judge has basically used the grounds that the incident lasted less than 10 seconds, so therefore could not have warranted the criminal charge of sexual assault. What happened was the teenager was walking down a flight of stairs at her Rome high school when Antonio Avola, I think he made me a pizza a couple weeks ago here in Queens, where he allegedly slid his hand inside of her underwear. When the 17-year-old turned and confronted Avola, he replied, "Come on, love." Well, he said it in Italian, so he was like, "Come on, love, you know I'm only joking," according to the Euronews. He was charged with sexual assault. However, the judge denied the prosecutor's request for a 4-year prison sentence since the groping had, quote, only lasted between 5 and 10 seconds and that his hand had not lingered down her underwear. And I'm going to say this to you. First off, holy fuck. What is going on in Italy if this is their judicial system? But one thing that Italians have done, and so many times the internet has brought out the worst of humanity. However, especially social media has just absolutely ruined us. However, in some ways, it has given some really clever people a great way to speak their voice and show their outrage, as a current trend on Italian social medias, the TikToks, the Instagrams, the Facebooks, the Twitches, the
Threads.
YouTubes, the Threads. Italians are taking videos of themselves groping themselves, so they'll just sit there and cup their breast or whatnot, and they do it for 10 seconds just to show the viewer exactly how long 10 seconds is and how this judge truly doesn't understand how much can happen in a 10-second time span. If you are out there, if you're interested, go onto social media. I believe the hashtag they're using is hashtag 10secondi, SECONDI. That's 10SECONDI. Another hashtag they're using is Ron and Brian Podcast, just all over Italian social media. But that is my story of the week, is the Italian social media has been taken over by people just outraged that a school janitor has been basically given a light slap on the wrist for sliding his hand down a young woman's pants. Ron,
Feels a little bit problematic.
A little bit. What story are you bringing to the table that's going to highlight social outrage?
So my story this week, Brian, the longtime sheriff of a Mississippi county allegedly sexually assaulted dozens of inmates and arrestees during his 3-decade career. This is Clay County Sheriff Eddie Scott. He has been the subject of numerous sexual exploitation allegations since taking office in 2012, but continues to head up the department more than a decade later. Scott's accusers claim that the powerful law enforcement leader coerced them into a sexual relationship and retaliated against them when they threatened to come forward with the alleged abuse. There is an unidentified 26-year-old woman who accused Scott of driving her to a hog farm to have sex in his patrol car on at least 5 occasions in 2009 as part of a promise he would use his influence to keep her out of prison. He wrote to her in prison and said, quote, "Hey, sexy." Scott, then 47, wrote to her in prison 9 months before he was elected sheriff. quote, got my blood pumping hard after reading the last two letters. Can't stop thinking of how tight it is. I want all of that and more if you can.
And this is a police officer on duty.
Yes. A Clay County judge ruled against the woman, and other officials failed to report the allegations to either state or federal law enforcement agencies. He is also accused of ordering a deputy, Kyle Eves, to plant drugs in the car of a former victim. Just seems like a shitty individual all around. Allegedly shitty individual. Apparently, he has also sent inappropriate text messages to employees referring to women as, quote, hookers, heifers, and hoes, and suggested that a former investigative assistant, Caitlin Wilson, and another woman should, quote, tag team him to give him oral sex.
This guy with his wraparound Oakleys.
Yes, without a doubt. You know he owns them.
No, he's wearing them. You see him. They're dangling off his neck. Piece of garbage. Fuck him.
Yes.
Yeah, that's disgusting. Absolutely.
So Brian, everybody, it seems, this week was talking about the new Jason Aldean song, Try That in a Small Town. Many saying that the lyrics and the video that went along with that were racist. CMT, Country Music TV, actually has taken the video down. It is, of course, extremely popular online now. It's up to 15 million views on YouTube. Actually, had a chance to watch the video earlier. We have a copy of the video, no sound though, because we don't want to get to get taken off. But Brian, you are a bit of a country Western music aficionado. What is your take on this song? Because you've broken down the lyrics for us.
Of course. Can you start the video so I can? I'm going to do Jason Aldean. Here we go. Sucker punch somebody on a sidewalk, carjacking old lady at a red light, pull a gun on the liquor store. You think it's cool? Well, act like a fool if you like. Cuss out a cop.
Quite the rhythm. I think you're a little.
Spit in his face, stomp on the flag and light it up. Yeah, you think you're tough? Well, try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Round here we take care of our own. Cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't try that in a small town. Oh, hey, got a gun that my granddad gave me. They say one day they're gonna round you up. Well, that shit don't fly in the city. Good luck. I feel like he's just hitting every Southern trope that you possibly can get to. Obviously,
like the actual song itself came out on May 19th, and I think it's just your typical pandering country song, just kind of hitting on the conservative outrage in the country, and back in the blue and everything else. The bigger issue seems to be when the music video came out, which was filmed at the Maury County Courthouse in Columbia, Tennessee, where Henry Choate, a black teenager, was lynched and hung in 1927. So that seems to be what people are considering to be the most insensitive, that they feel that there is a quote unquote lynching mentality in the lyrics. But it really is, I guess, just false bravado. Like, this is the same guy who a week ago had to end his concert early in Hartford, Connecticut, because he was so worn out from playing golf all day the day before. Sure.
This is the same guy that that fled from the stage as he was performing in Las Vegas when Stephen Weatherby decided to take out his AK-47s and start mass shootings. Jason Aldean, he was on stage. I did not see him go get his handgun and start returning fire. What I saw was
get a gun that his granddad gave him and start firing back.
Well, somebody tried that in a big town, and Jason Aldean did absolutely nothing. None of his crew did anything. His band didn't do anything. They all fled for their lives.
Right.
Once again, it is just that, like I think you nailed it earlier when you said false bravado. It's hey, let's back the blue because they're gonna, we're not gonna take that lion down in our small town. But shit happens all the time in small towns.
Right.
It's
And there's the one line, around here we take care of our own. Like, I grew up in a small town. People don't give a shit about each other in a small town. Like, that is
no.
that is a fallacy that is out there from like
Hmm.
many decades ago. Like,
Sure.
people where I grew up are like, well, shit, I got to get mine, and I don't care if I got to step on my neighbor to get it.
Hmm.
But
That's what happens when you grow up.
do you feel the online outrage is justified based on the song and the video?
No, I think that you are. I think that um, the number of opportunities that we as a society have to hype up rhetoric or to tamp it down. I think what you're looking at is somebody on the right deciding to ramp up rhetoric. And I
Right.
think the left is falling completely into that trap by sitting there saying, we need to cancel Jason Aldean. This is a racist video. When it's painfully obvious that this is simply pandering.
Right. And it's not, it's not a great song. I mean, musically, it's very
No, not
just
at all.
very basic. The lyrics are very basic. It's no Red
Sure.
Solo Cup, Brian. I think you and I can both agree with that. It's not up to that level of quality. And again, I think if without this outrage, I don't think it becomes nearly as popular as it has become.
No, obviously he puts this song out, where it's once again, it is just like, if you come down into my small town, first off, I can guarantee you Jason Aldean does not live in a small town.
No, he
Jason
lives in
Aldean,
his home is probably the size of a small town.
correct. He is living in a gated community. We know
Yeah.
that.
Right.
So he said he's already paying for security to protect him and his family. And you know what? He's made enough money that he can. And
Right.
I'm not sitting there saying that he should be living in down in the bayou where anybody can come get him. I understand he wants security. He wants to live, but to sit there and just say like, you try that in your small town. Well, I got a gun and I'm going to start. It's I'm sorry, but like you're offering up just shit on toast, and you're going to sit there and really it's just I didn't, and this is the plan. It's to just get clicks,
Right.
to go viral for people to talk about you. I had no idea who Jason Aldean was up until this week. He was performing at that Las Vegas concert. And you know what? I forgot his name within a couple days.
Sure.
I genuinely now, because of this video and the song and the outreach to it, now I know who Jason Aldean is. I wish I
Yeah.
didn't.
Again, it's almost more like you try and manufacture this outrage because it's gonna increase your viral ability
Sure.
online.
This is 1 degree away from Kid Rock shooting up cases of Bud Light with his shotgun while turning around and selling it at his bars. Like it is just this. And the truth be told is there's false outrage on the left as well.
Oh, sure, without a doubt.
You cannot sit here and only attack the right for tactics that are also happening on both sides of the social spectrum. Right now, we're just trashing Jason Aldean. We're trashing country music. We are trashing just the narrative in this country of vigilantism in the face of people who are protesting for a better quality of life.
Yeah, I mean, I think both sides are working off the same playbook at this point.
Sure.
That's not surprising.
I've seen so many photos on TikTok of Kyle Rittenhouse.
Right.
Because like suddenly now he's back in the in the zeitgeist.
Right. Well, you want to talk about?
No offense, I don't want to body shame, but Kyle Rittenhouse, whatever his name was, that kid blew up like a fat Arby's boy. I don't care. Like, have you seen a photo of him recently?
Not a recent one, no.
Oh my God, he's put on, I would say, at least 50 plus pounds. Like he
We don't
literally
we
looks
don't
like
body
somebody.
shame around here.
Maybe I didn't say that he looks terrible.
No, no. You're
I
just
just said he's
pointing
put
it
on
out.
a lot of weight. He's put on a lot of weight. And hopefully he will give himself heart disease and die a young death.
Well,
Maybe
speaking
while he's
of
down in Florida during hurricane season. Oh my
maybe
God.
that'll hit him straight on. Speaking
Please
of
God.
talented singers, though,
Mm.
Brian, this week we lost the legend Anthony Dominic Benedetto, better known to his fans as Tony Bennett, passing away
Mhm.
on July 21st at the age
That one.
of 96.
Yeah.
I don't know of anyone who doesn't like Tony Bennett.
Of course, everybody
Like
loves Tony Bennett. I mean,
you know,
he was an American hero.
he's obviously, but even just his music, everyone's like, yeah, I can listen to Tony Bennett. Like he's one of those just everybody across the board, multi-generational talent.
Sure.
And
Sure.
suffering from Alzheimer's disease since 2016,
Mhm.
kind of dropped out of the public eye over the last
Sure.
probably 6 months or so.
Mhm.
And yeah, we will definitely miss him.
Ron, do you hear what I hear?
What do you hear, Brian?
I hear a beat. There's
You
there's
hear
a
a
beat
beat?
going on in my head.
Is it this beat?
Trying to think. Oh yeah. Oh. Oh, hold on. Oh yeah. That's right, Ron. Tony Bennett. My man. Oh yeah. Tony fucking Bennett. This one's for you. The great American story. He just died at 96. Lived some life, deserved all that glory. Tony Bennett, born in Long Island City, a Queens boy. Tried and true, would have stayed at home, but to Cali he flew. He was too busy stepping out. He left his heart in Frisco. Always stayed relevant, but never sang the disco. Tony loved the ladies, had 3 wives. They argued a lot, but none of them threw knives. Tony got a Lifetime Achievement Award, won over Grammys. The ladies threw brown panties, even the grannies. Tony Bennett loved the croon because of you. He sang with Lady Gaga. She thought he was a Jew. That's right, we lost Tony Bennett, and that's making me crazy sad. His 4 children are mourning because he was a great dad. He faded out due to the Alzheimer's. That's where he forgets a lot of shit. So this jam goes out to Tony Bennett. Play his songs loud, because his catalog is hella lit. Peace. Tony Bennett, you out.
Oh, Brian, some good stuff right there. What was your favorite Tony Bennett song?
Couldn't name one. All joking aside, I have to say "Stepping Out." It was just one of those songs that I remember growing up in my parents' house. That was a song that was played very often, to the point where I think maybe when I was 7 years old, I knew all the lyrics. Stepping out with my baby, hey, 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 don't mean maybe. Like I knew all the words as a child. I didn't even know who Tony Bennett was, but I knew his music. How about yourself?
I would agree. No, I was just about to say that too. I think "Stepping Out with My Baby" is one of his. I mean, he's obviously known for "Left My Heart in San Francisco," but I think "Stepping Out" classic. I mean, when he was on what was it, MTV Unplugged back in the '90s. I mean, that's when he really like hit his mainstream popularity for a new generation. So it was very sad to see. But people keep saying, "Oh, it's such a tragedy." I think if you're 96. You've lived a long life. I don't know if you would call it a tragedy at that point.
It's not.
He definitely was fortunate enough to live a lot. It's sad. Suffering from Alzheimer's, sad. But listen, we're not built to make it to 96. None of us are.
Listen, at least he doesn't remember that he had. At least he doesn't remember that he had the Alzheimer's.
Good point. Very good point. Yeah.
But I think you say it's a tragedy when a school bus of toddlers goes off the road.
Right.
That's a tragedy.
I
Somebody
give you that.
dying at the age of 96, I think we can all admit is sad, that his glorious life came to an end. But the man had a great ride.
Yeah, without a doubt. Just a classic career, life well lived. Brian, another question for
Yes,
you.
sure.
What are you watching?
Oh my God! How much time do we have left in this Because
I mean, we've
I'm
got at
all
least
over the
half
board.
hour.
Okay, then we're gonna talk about what I am watching. We're gonna start off with watch the new episode of Hijack on Apple TV. I believe it was episode 5. Um, I'm going to say this, and I know this sounds old. It sounds like the complaints of an old man, but having to wait a week for an hour show,
Yeah.
I find myself losing some of my love for the show. I feel like if this was
Netflix has really spoiled us in that aspect because it always
yeah,
used to be the case. You would wait a week for an episode, and then
sure,
remember when they would do those summer cliffhangers and like they
sure,
go on hiatus for like 4 or 6 weeks, whatever, and
of
then you
course,
just have to wait. I mean,
yes,
now Netflix, we're used to getting fed everything right away.
yeah. Well, it's just because I find like the first couple minutes of every episode, you are trying to remember who's what, how did last weekend. Um, Whereas if you can binge it, you can just knock it out. But I will say this: they have done a very good job of keeping the tension. It
Yeah,
basically is a show where it's not. They've kind of borrowed from the Kiefer Sutherland show 24, where it's kind of an hour every episode of time in real time is moving forward. It's not as what's the word I'm thinking of? It's not as loyal to the clock in the
right.
same way that 24 was. However, it's a 7-hour flight that they are telling the story of, and there are 7 episodes. I believe you just watched 5, so I believe there's 2 hours left. But really, it is just you feel the tension.
Yeah,
So if you've
I
got
think it's
Apple
one of the
TV,
better shows that have been on Apple TV this
yes,
year.
I absolutely agree with you. Also on Apple TV, I knocked out season 2 of Slow Horses, starring Gary Oldman. I highly recommend it to anybody
Okay,
who is
I'm gonna write
into
that down.
British. If you're into British spy stories, it is 2 seasons that they've got there. He really is just a fine actor, and you can even see in this show he's not even really trying. Like you watch True Romance, over
Oh
the
yeah,
top. You watch him in JFK, over the top. What was the not Bad Lieutenant? What was the one with the little girl with Natalie Portman?
The
The
Professional.
Professional, Leon. He was so over the top in that one. He just literally plays a over the hill British spy master who is counting the days down and keeps getting dragged into more stories. I also watched a documentary called The Deepest Breath on Netflix.
How was that? I saw a preview for
Ooh.
that this week. How was it?
Are you into watching people voluntarily hold their breath for 4 minutes as they dive 100 meters into the ocean with zero oxygen assistance?
I mean, in a way, it is. Like, I think what was it, about a year or so ago, we watched that climbing documentary where people just did the free climbing up the
Sure,
side of
sure.
like
Mhm.
ridiculous mountains. Like, I feel it's very similar to that. Like, people are just trying to do things that you really should have safety equipment for, but they
Yes.
don't.
There is absolutely no safety equipment. This literally is people will, they'll measure down how far the rope goes. So this way they know. When you get to the bottom of the rope, there is a mechanism there where you have to pull a tag that
Okay.
shows you were down there. Hold on to the tag, at which point you zoom back to the surface. Basically, at the last 20 or 30 meters, and I really hate using the metric system here because I'll be honest with you, and I'm assuming everybody watching the show right now who knows me will understand that I absolutely have zero idea how deep 30 meters is. I just couldn't tell you. But at 30 meters is where they start to have the safety assistance divers who basically you go down and they wait like 2 or 3 minutes, and then the safety divers go down to kind of help you rise to the surface. People die during
Oh,
this
I'm
sport.
sure. I'm sure.
It's It's not lame. It's not, they're not fooling around. But it starts off just if you really want to have a good play of anxiety, it always starts off with that's why we have Matt. Okay. Matt is the one who can Google the stuff for us. But it literally starts off with this Italian woman at the surface just rolling over and going down. And the camera is probably, I would say, maybe, 10 to 15 meters away from her. And you literally see her as she's sinking down, and you can see the movement of the rope because every meter they have a little black tape to denote that she's gone down another meter. And as she is sinking, as she is descending into the water, first off, you're thinking of the Titan, the
Right.
submersible. You're thinking, holy cow, this is what it's like going down in the water. But you actually see what she starts off with at the surface. It's very lit. The sun's out, the water is see-through
Not
practically.
not lit like off the chain. Like
No, no, no,
lit
no, no.
like
Like literally,
actual light.
like yes.
Got it. Okay.
And then as she starts descending, the water gets darker and darker and darker, and you realize that 2 minutes have gone by and this person has not breathed. They can't. They would just drown immediately. So then they have to stop, turn around, and come back up. And you realize just how many breaths you've taken in that time. If you feel like a little bit of anxiety, watch that
Okay.
because it will kick in. I also watched 3 episodes of Dark Side of the Ring, season 4. I don't know if you've watched any of it, but I watched episodes
Not yet.
on Junkyard Dog, Adrian Adonis, and Abdullah the Butcher, who were all
All
three
legends.
wrestlers
All
who
legends.
were, yeah, not only were they legends, but they also happened to have been wrestling when I was into wrestling as a early teen. So like
Yep.
I knew who Adrian Adonis was. Had no idea the story behind him. I always thought of him as as a mediocre name. Slightly, not quite acrobatic at the time, or didn't have the physique that a lot of the wrestlers at the time were. But you just, holy cow, Abdullah the Butcher, he was one of those guys where like every fight people were just drowning in blood. So it was gory.
I'll binge watch
This
Dark
season,
Side of the Ring at some point.
I watched the first 3 seasons during the pandemic, so this one is actually quite good. Also, I mentioned I watched Mission Impossible today, Dead Reckoning Part 1. Have to come back in a year, June of 24, when Part 2 comes out. Enjoyable,
Okay.
hard to follow, kind of all over the place, but it was an action movie, so you're going to get what you
It's
want.
Mission Impossible. You know what you're getting.
Sure. Last but not least, on HBO Max, I watched Last Call, when a serial killer stalked queer New York. And it is it's a 4-part documentary. 2 parts are already out. I believe part 3 might be coming out tonight. We're
Okay.
recording this Sunday night, but it takes place in the 80s when homosexual New York was still in many ways off the radar, a dark secret. They were just during the time they are as a community, they are finally understanding the power that they collectively have. That the days of being afraid to be who they were is starting to pass. And you've got as so far in the first 2 episodes, there are 3 members of the gay community in New York who are last seen at pickup bars and are found dismembered in 7 different in 7 different bags, literally thrown out in garbage cans throughout the Northeast. One was in Jersey, one was in Pennsylvania. Not sure where the other one was. But it literally was, so I've knocked out 2 episodes.
All right.
So
I'll check that out.
I'm interested in seeing how that goes. Ron, what are you
Yes.
watching?
So I mean, watching Hijack, obviously, I think it's one of the better shows on right now. Was watching The Bear, kind of put that off to the side a bit because I think I don't know, it's one you have to kind of get through the first half of the season to stick with, I feel.
It's a slow grab, but but it does grab you. Don't give up on it.
Like I need to be in the mood to watch it, and I wasn't
Yes.
this past week. One show that I slept on last year, The Old Man, on FX with Jeff Bridges. It was, I think it was on FX originally, and now it's on Hulu.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent show. It's got Judge Amy, can't remember the actress's name, but it is, basically Jeff Bridges is an ex-CIA guy, was fighting over in Kabul, and like basically disappeared from public view like 30 years ago, and now is being dragged out of retirement. I'm 4 episodes in. Just well done. I mean, Jeff Bridges, obviously great actor, but a great show as well. So I would recommend The Old Man. I watched a documentary on Hulu also called Betrayal: The Perfect Husband. So basically, it's a 3-episode docuseries about this woman who was, married to the quote unquote perfect man, who she found out was just having sex with everybody, including apparently sexually assaulting a student of his.
Was he an Italian janitor?
He was not. He was a film studies teacher in high school.
Oh, of course, those guys are the creeps.
It was an interesting story, but it was a 3-episode docuseries that probably could have run an hour. It was very much, we got, like, after a while, it's like, all right, we get it. The guy is a piece of shit, and the wife had no idea what was going on. We get it. We get it. Amy Brenneman, also in The Old Man. And then another movie that came out last year, BJ Novak played Ryan on The Office, a movie called Vengeance. It is about a writer living in New York City. He's trying to come up with an idea for a podcast. He ends up getting called to attend the funeral of a girl that he had hooked up with a few times, but the family thought he was her boyfriend. So he has to go to like this remote part of Texas, and the family thinks that she was killed. She overdosed, but the family thinks she was killed. And so the story just kind of goes from there. Great acting from everybody in the cast. I don't remember all of them. It was BJ Novak, Ashton Kutcher's in there. It speaks to the condition of society as a whole. But just a very well thought out, very well written, very well acted movie, with kind of a surprising ending. So I would say, if you had an hour and 50 minutes, go watch Vengeance.
Interesting. Okay.
And I think that's all I watched in the past week.
Sounds like you. I definitely know myself. I don't know why, but it feels like I watched more stuff this week.
I started watching a few different things and just couldn't stick with it. Like, it feels like there is a lack of good content right now. Like, there's always a shit ton of content, but there's just a lack of anything overly interesting right now.
Yeah, but one of the things that you have that's where that's going to hurt you is that you watch a lot of stuff like as it comes out. Whereas, like, I know I myself, I will in so many cases watch something that you recommended months ago. So I'm so far behind, and I have so many things to choose from and whatnot. Where I think you very much are, new releases, what came out this week, and so if things start to slow down a bit, I think that's going to hurt you.
Well, that's why that's why I keep Brockmire on the back burner. So eventually, like, as the SAG-AFTRA strike and the writer's strike, really drags on, I will have Brockmire in my back pocket, fired up, ready to go.
How much Brockmire did you watch?
I don't believe I watched any. So
I made it through a season. Yeah,
I've got that to get into still.
I think that might be some interesting Patreon content when we watch Brockmire. Oh, speaking of Patreon, I would like to hold on. You talk for a second, Ron, because there is a author. I'll talk. There is an author that I am now following.
On Patreon or just in general?
No, there is an author of books. It's Millz, I believe, with a Z.
Millz Lane.
Here we go. No, Quan Millz, the author. If you guys are anywhere near a computer or your phones, look up Quan Millz, QUANMILLZ. I'm going to be doing an audiobook.
Yes, I remember Quan Millz now.
Okay, so Quan Millz writes books. They're short stories, let's be brutally honest. Um, and you can, I think the books are probably about $2 on Amazon, but I'll read some of the, I'm going to do a Patreon a poll. So some of the names of Quan Mills's books on Amazon are This Hoe Got Roaches in Her Crib. Um, there's an N word, got a small dick. I'm not saying that. Pastors eat pussy too. Old thought next door. My psycho baby daddy. Thoughts. My baby mama is a loser. When a bad bish and a savage link up. An urban romance standalone. So these are urban stories.
Sure.
The coldest thug ever. Um, Gutta chicks do gutta things. Anyway, I haven't done this in a long time, but before I go away on tour with LOA, I'm going to do an audiobook
All
for
right.
one of Quan Mill's stories. So, Ron, do you think we should do a poll on Patreon where people pick the one that I'm going to do an audiobook for? Do you
I
think that we
think
just
so.
let them
Because
make
here's
their
the
own
thing,
decisions?
like if it were me, like I would
If it were
say,
me,
if it were me,
sorry,
I would say, Brian, do closed legs, don't get fed too, because one was just kind of derivative, but I think two,
correct.
he really did that a lot of justice. Or God forgives, the streets don't. Like I would go with one, but again, I'm a Patreon subscriber, but we really need to leave it to the fans to really
Sure.
decide.
Unfortunately, people, my boyfriend beats me, but I still love him. Unavailable right now. It's unavailable on Amazon, so please do not vote for
Now,
it.
I will
But
mention
yeah,
that Dirty Dogs and Thirsty Thoughts 2 is available for free on Kindle Unlimited.
but I don't have Kindle Unlimited.
But you can get a free trial and therefore get it for free.
Mm,
Mm.
yes. So here, 378 pages. That is a book and a half. I'm hoping those are short pages. But
That's
yes,
legit.
that is a legit. I do right now. My heart goes to This Hoe Got Roaches in Her Crib, Kindle edition. Here, just you guys want to know what I mean? What with the title like This Hoe Got Roaches in Her Crib, Ron? What do you think the story? What do you think the meat of the story is?
I'm going to say that there is a woman, probably one of the main characters of the story, and her house or apartment, don't know where she lives exactly, there's an infestation of roaches.
Okay. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to tell you that Quan Mills. If I had to, if I was a betting man, you know, I'm not. If I was a betting man, I would say, oh, hold on, I can get it for free. It says buy now, Kindle price zero. Um, uh, this is written by a white racist.
So you're saying
If
Quan Millz may not actually exist?
I'm saying Quan Mills is a pseudonym, and it could be a white racist because this is the write up for This Hoe Got
You're saying
Roaches.
Clayton Bigsby might be the actual author.
Correct. Austin Watkins, 35 and a single father, finds himself in a precarious situation. Currently locked up in Chicago's Cook County Jail, he knows that Fred Quisha, the trifling mother of his only daughter, is a despicable, careless, and reckless thought, people. If you don't know what thought means, that hoe over there. It's an acronym. Who is the antithesis of caring, loving black motherhood. Wanting to see her son gain full redemption from his current situation, Dolores Watkins, better known as Miss Watkins, is also hell-bent on rescuing Austin's 6-year-old daughter, Maya, from the clutches of relentless psychological, emotional, and physical abuse she suffers at the hands of Fred Quisha. Hoping her son works hard to change the course of his life for the betterment of his daughter, Mrs. Watkins explores the possibility of challenging Fred Quisha's custody of Maya. But as she navigates the complex red tape-filled bureaucracy of child welfare services, this is the audiobook in itself. I don't even need to fucking do anything. She decides to take things into her own hands and is willing to put her life on the line for the salvation of her granddaughter. Fred Quisha Pierce, a native of the dangerous Englewood, Chicago, could give two shits about the welfare of her daughter. Her mission in life is simple. Get money, smoke weed, and ride bomb dick. Nothing more, nothing. Like, There's no way somebody legit would write this. After meeting a potential new bae, Fred Quisha needs to make some lifestyle changes so she can upgrade her Section 8 squalor living situation. This is written by a racist white man. I know that. However, a looming pregnancy threatens to unravel her plans for a big come up. This book is another episodic chronicle born out of the dark, gritty social drama storytelling talent of urban fiction mastermind Quan Millz. This hoe got roaches in her crib will deliver a gut-punching blow to those who don't understand the many trials and tribulations single fathers go through to rescue their children from manipulative, ratchet women who use the family court system to their advantage.
Well, keep
So
an
if you
eye
guys
out on our
want to,
social media.
yeah,
We will put a poll up so you can choose which
yes.
audiobook you would like Brian to do for you.
Allie's bringing the what do you call it? The SAT words. A nom de
Nom de
plume.
plume.
Nom de plume. But yeah, I feel like an audiobook is upcoming from me.
I'm excited. I am ready for it, Brian. I don't know about you, but I am ready for it.
I think it'll be fun. Anything
All
going
right.
on in your life, Ron, that you want to talk about?
I just nothing in particular, but I would like to get to one of our more popular segments. But the drag queens are the problem. We've got a couple of stories this week. We're going to start out in California, in Ventura County, where a minister and former teacher has been charged with multiple felony counts of child abuse, including accusations that he tried to meet up with a 15-year-old girl for sex. That would be Barry Fike, 67, of Fillmore, was arrested on Monday following an investigation by the Ventura County Child Exploitation and Human Trafficking Task Force. He is a minister at Fillmore Church of Christ. He pleaded not guilty to all charges. He became subject of an investigation recently when he allegedly started communicating online with a person that he believed to be a 15-year-old girl. The Ventura County DA's office said in a news release that, quote, the conversations were sexual in nature, and Fike allegedly shared explicit photos of himself with the victim, who was actually an undercover officer. Fike has previously taught at Oaks Christian High School, as well as served as a visiting professor at Pepperdine University. He is due in court again on July 27th, but remains in custody at this time with bail set at $150,000. But Brian, it's the drag queens that are the problem.
Ron, it's the drag queens that are the problem.
It is the drag queens that are the problem. We have another story, Brian, going out to Alabama. Not shocking. A government relations employee with the Alabama Department of Education has been charged with sexual abuse of a child less than 12. This is Cole Wagner, age 32, of Montgomery, was arrested this past Wednesday on the charge. He was arrested and bond was set at $60,000. The indictment served down from a grand jury says that he subjected another person less than 12 to sexual contact. The charge is a Class B felony, which can carry a sentence anywhere from 2 years to 20 years in prison. Seems like 2 years, not enough. Fortunately,
not enough at all.
Alabama Department of Education terminated his employment effective immediately. No other word yet as to when if he made bail or when his next court case will be. But yeah, Brian, it's them damn drag queens that are the problem, trying to indoctrinate their children. Oh, you speak about what's going on in my life. We, speaking of which, we went to a drag and burlesque show in Glenside, PA, at the Royal Music Hall. Myself, my wife, Jardy's, good friends of the podcast, as we all know.
You went with the Jardys?
We went with the Jardys. So they were having an evening event there on Friday night called Burlesque and Drag in the Burbs. More burlesque than drag, but there were a couple of drag performers there. Very entertaining. I had a good time. A good time was had by all, Brian.
And I think that's important. I think it's important that a good time is had by all.
Well, if it's by
walk
some,
me through
it's
what was some of the high points and low points of your burlesque and drag show?
I mean, low points, we did not win the raffle they had toward the end of the evening. High points, Marty, super fan of the podcast,
Super fan. Super fan.
winning a dance contest on stage.
No shit.
And she got a free drink and a foot fetish coloring book.
Question: is she going to be this coloring book?
I mean, I think if you want it as a housewarming gift, I mean, she might be willing to send it your way.
Janelle wants to know, what was the raffle?
The raffle there was like some gift cards. There were some tickets to some different events in the area. But yeah, we did not win.
That's a shame. I'm sorry to hear that.
But there were some very good song performances. One of the drag performers, she did Bruce Willis as like a whole, like she did like a Die Hard Pulp Fiction mashup as part of her stage show. So it was fun. It was it was a good time, Brian. Obviously, we had brought some children. I mean, the price of admission was a child who you had to handcuff to a chair close to the stage to be indoctrinated and groomed and everything else.
Of course.
They had to turn up the sound at times to cover the screams of the children. But other than that, I think everyone had a very good time.
So, Ron, on leaving, did you order any pizzas? Did you get a pepperoni pizza?
We said we'll be in the basement getting our pie.
Oh, you love your pizza.
Wink.
Wink. No, Ron,
I will
time
say
for
this.
fuck around. Oh, what were you going to say? Sorry.
No, I was going to say, you want to talk about another beef of the week. As I said to the wife, I'm like, why don't we Uber over? Because we were getting dinner at a brewery next to where the show was. I was like, why don't we just Uber over? So you don't have to, none of us have to worry about driving. She's like, oh no, I'm not going to drink. I'll drive. So we drive over, and sure enough, we end up leaving her car there and Ubering home because she had one too many.
I love your wife.
I do too.
She is a fun person to party with. She's and we've always said, sprinter, not a marathon runner.
No,
when it comes to Mrs. Ron and her alcohol intake, we love that.
This was definitely. But Brian, you want to get in some fuck around and find out?
I need some fuck around and find out. I know we're already at the hour mark, but we have got such good stories for fuck around and find out.
And of course, my computer has to freeze up at this exact moment. So let me see if I can.
Okay, so we're gonna. I'll start off the first one while you start it off with. All the way from Chicago. You know me, I love a good Chicago story. Jonathan Banks was 32. I'm using past tense as you have an idea how this story is going to end. CBS Chicago's reporting, a Chicago man died when he sliced open his arm while punching the front window of a bar he was being tossed out of earlier this week. Jonathan Banks, 32, pronounced dead at the emergency room of Vista Medical Center East. He injured himself at a bar after he got into a verbal altercation with another person, had to be escorted out by security. Apparently, he was angry at being escorted out, obviously. Then he allegedly used his fist to punch out the window of the bar's front door, resulting in several arm lacerations, which caused massive bleeding. Police responded to a call at around 2 a.m. Unfortunately, Mr. Banks did not survive as he bled out. Fuck around and find out, Mr. Jonathan Banks. You found out. Don't punch a glass window.
Always good advice. Always good advice. Also, if you are in a national park and you see a wild animal, steer clear, as a woman from Arizona found out in Yellowstone National Park as she visited the wildlife sanctuary with a friend. She and her friend were walking through a field on the north shore of Lake Yellowstone when they came across two bison, one of which charged at the woman. I didn't realize bison can run 3 times faster than humans, up to 35 miles an hour. Charged and gored the woman. She suffered significant injuries to her chest and abdomen. She was airlifted to Eastern Idaho Regional Medical Center via via helicopter. But unfortunately, it doesn't say. It doesn't say if she died from her injuries or not, just that she was gored. So no update yet on her condition. Going to the
Fuck
skies,
around
Brian.
and find out.
You know, the skies are crazy right now, Brian. I don't know if anyone would want to fly anywhere right now. But you have a United Airlines passenger who was kicked off a flight after complaining about his meal choice. Of course, he went viral on TikTok and other social media out there. He was on United Flight 20, going on a rant that included saying, "Fuck you," calling flight attendants douches, and filming a customer service manager while threatening that he would wind up on Fox News over the incident. Shocking that was the one that the news outlet T would say. So the man was reportedly upset that even though he paid $1,000 for his ticket, attendants wouldn't serve him the first course of his meal while the plane was still on the runway. So apparently they took off. He was a pain in the ass. The plane made it about 2.5 hours into the flight before pilots were forced to land in Chicago and remove him.
Now, is that the way one normally should behave?
I would think not. No, I would think not. This is also interesting because it had so much fuel because it was trying to go from Houston to Amsterdam. The flight was too heavy to safely land, and it had to circle O'Hare until it burned off enough fuel to be able to land. You would think they would just keep going to like another airport. If they're going to Amsterdam, just keep flying east. But, all right. Thanks. So again, he ruined his own trip and ruined the trip for other people as well.
Right.
Brian, I know that you are a fan of Texas TikToker, Sassy Trucker. You have often shared her videos with me.
She's so good.
Tried to keep it off my timeline, but you keep sending it. Well, she is now.
Every time I see one of her, I just scream out loud. Every time I see that Sassy Trucker is posted, I have to scream.
So she is trapped in Dubai and faces 2 years in prison for screaming at the employee of a rental car agency. This is Tiara Allen, as we said, known better to her 182,800 followers, of which Brian is one, as Sassy Trucker. She has been stuck in the country since authorities took away her passport. Apparently there was a verbal argument between herself and the manager of a local car rental shop when she stopped in to pick up her personal belongings. This is all the way back in April. So she is still stuck in Dubai after 3 months. No word yet as to when she might get her passport back or be able to leave the country. But you fucked around a bit, which you don't do in Dubai. You specifically do not do in Dubai if you're a female, because they really don't treat women well over in the UAE over there. So not a good call. And then our final fuck around and find out goes to the 16 individuals that had charges filed against them this week by Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel. These were 16 people who signed paperwork falsely claiming that President Donald Trump had won the 2020 election in Michigan as part of a scheme to overturn the results. So they are now all facing these charges, multiple of them admitting to it. So this should be a fairly easy prosecution, as most of these individuals have gone on record as being proud of what they did.
Yes.
So they fucked around, Brian, and it feels like they most certainly
found out.
We'll find out.
Fuck them.
Right, well,
fuck them all. I hope they all end up in jail.
A great episode, top to bottom. But we're not done.
We're not done.
If you are a Patreon
I'm not going anywhere.
Subscriber, our After Dark will start in about 21 minutes. If you are not a Patreon subscriber, what the hell are you thinking? Go to ronandbrianpodcast.com. Click on the upper right-hand corner where it says join, become a patron. And if you join at the $10 level or higher, you get to join us live after dark on YouTube later this evening. It's the saucier stories that we don't get to. Sassy Trucker, borderline.
Not even worth it.
But
not worth
make
it.
It
she doesn't warrant. She does not warrant After Dark. No.
So
we've got stories for After Dark.
Yeah. So Join. If you get signed up in the next 20 minutes, we will get you the link. Brian, any last words before we close out this episode of our podcast?
Listen, this has been a very trying week. Huge pockets of America are practically boiling, sweltering. People are suffering. We've got waters in the Gulf of Mexico dangerously high. Please, God, if you're listening, flatten Florida with fucking hurricanes. But more importantly, Ron, is the fact that you and your wife are safe. I miss the hell out of you two. Can't wait to see you again. And also, if you have an Amazon account, go to Amazon, look up Quan Millz, and let's pick a story, because we're going to go over to Patreon momentarily, and I already have a copy of This Hoe Got Roaches in Her Crib. Nice. I'm going to read a couple paragraphs of it. That shit was $0. Amazon's just giving away copies of This Hoe Got Roaches in Her Crib. And if you want to hear me read This Hoe's Got Roaches in Her Crib, go to Patreon right now, sign up, support for as little as $5 a month. People, we're not asking for a lot of money. It is just a way to help Ron and I offset the costs of this podcast. StreamYard isn't free. A website is not free. Podcast hosting is not free. Our YouTube channel is free. Matt is certainly not free in his cocaine. So we are going to, Ron and I, we go through our every month, we go through our pockets. We sit there and say, we are going to prop up this podcast. Also, every month, $25 is going to go to a charity of whoever wins Can You Beat Ron or Can You Beat Brian? I believe we've got Can You Beat Ron coming up later on this month. No, Can You Beat Brian's coming up.
Brian is coming up. Next Sunday is our pajama party, which last Sunday of each month, we have our Patreon subscribers come on to the show with us and take one of us on in a trivia contest. And if you beat one of us, $25 goes to your favorite charity.
And usually I pay a lot more than $25 for somebody to beat me.
Hey-o!
All right, let's close it out.
Well, thank you all for joining us. For those folks that listen to the free podcast, we will catch you again next Sunday. Patreon folks, we will catch you in a few minutes. Have a good week, everybody.
Thank you for joining us on the Ron and Brian podcast. We're live each week on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. You can find prior episodes, links to our social media, and everything else Ron and Brian at ronandbrianpodcast.com.